Welcome to the Bright Eyes Podcast, advice for healthy vision for all ages. Your hosts are Dr. Nate Bonilla-Warford and Dr. Beth Knighton, residency-trained optometrists providing eye care to all ages with exams for glasses and contacts and specialty services including vision therapy, myopia control, orthokeratology, and sports vision training. Their mission is to empower patients by providing the best in friendly, professional, and individualized eye care.
It's March, and so that means it's fall in Florida, when all the leaves and pollen make everyone miserable. This is the Bright Eyes Podcast. This is episode number 9. I'm Dr. Nate Bonilla-Warford. Dr. Beth is away, and I have a special guest with me, James Blaha of Vivid Vision. How are you doing, James?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about doing this. We've talked many times over the last few years, and I had wanted to have you as a guest on our podcast for a while, and I'm glad that it worked out. So for listeners who don't know, vision therapy is a program of treatment to help people who have certain types of functional visual problems. And that can be an eye movement problem, an eye focusing problem, an eye alignment problem, or other kinds of problems. There are many different strategies and many different ways that vision therapy can be performed, but Vivid Vision is a way to apply those same principles in a virtual reality environment. And that is the product of years of work that James had done. Now, the interesting thing about this is that James is not an optometrist. What is your background?
I'm a programmer and entrepreneur, but I also, grew up with amblyopia and strabismus. So I got interested in all of this from my own personal perspective, going through treatment as a kid and later as an adult reading about it.
Yeah, which I think is fascinating. So when you were first developing this, it was nowhere near the level that it is now in terms of features and sophistication. What was the first kind of prototype like?
Yeah, so when I first started building it, I guess I was kind of naive as to what the complexities of all this would actually be like. I thought it would be a lot simpler than it actually is. The first version, I had a cube in VR, and basically I could use the arrows on my keyboard to make it brighter in my weak eye and dimmer in my strong eye. And I would make an adjustment until I could see parts of the cube with my weak eye. So that was sort of the first test we made. And that was basically a rough estimate of suppression of the weaker eye. And then the first game I had is actually a version of what's now Breaker, which is like a breakout style game, but in 3D and in VR, where you use paddles to hit a ball to destroy bricks on the other side of an arena. So the very first version, we would take a measurement of the suppression using the first tool, and then we would set up the game so the bricks were brighter in the weak eye and dimmer in the strong eye according to that measurement. And that was about four years ago, I guess.
4 years ago, and a lot's changed in 4 years. So for patients who might be listening, with the features and the current state of virtual reality treatment, Vivid Vision in particular, who would be a candidate?
You would probably be able to answer that even better than I could. But in general, amblyopia, strabismus, although with strabismus it can be complicated and really depends on the case, I think, and also convergence problems and divergence problems. We've seen the most success with refractive amblyopia. That seems to be easiest to treat.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. In our office, we use it for people who have amblyopia, which commonly is called lazy eye by people. People also use the term lazy eye to mean strabismus, where the eyes aren't necessarily aligned all the time, or maybe not some of the time. Those conditions result in a condition called suppression, where one eye sort of takes over, dominates the other one. There's a dominant eye and less dominant eye. And so the whole point of this virtual reality treatment is to stimulate the eye that's suppressed, to get the eyes to work together in a very, very engaging and immersive way. What we see in the clinic is that it works extremely well. It's very, very effective, but also it's very fun.
Yeah, I think the motivation part of it is sort of one of the missing parts of other treatments. It's a lot easier to do the actual therapy time. And I think the therapy time is more effective when people want to do it and are engaged in it as well.
Yeah, I think that that's true kind of across the board. If it's more engaging, if it's more interesting, the brain's going to learn faster and make better use of that information. And so we try to do that as much as possible, but few things are as engaging as virtual reality video games. I think we're going to see a lot more of in different contexts, and I'm excited to be able to offer it. Now, we've had some tremendous success stories, people who have improved dramatically in terms of how clear they can see with their amblyoptic eye. We've had patients who formerly didn't see in 3D, but then were able to develop their depth perception. I would imagine that you've heard just a huge number, a wide variety of success stories all over the country and all over the world. Do you have maybe like a couple of like a favorite case that really you really kind of sticks with you? I guess aside from your own, because your own is pretty compelling.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that a little bit. I think we have heard of cases all over. One of the cases that sort of sticks out in my mind was a guy in his 50s who had a strabismus surgery. And following the surgery, he used vivid vision with an ophthalmologist and actually saw really big results, gaining stereo for the first time in his 50s after this surgery. And it sort of surprised the ophthalmologist. And usually we don't expect recovery in strabismus and later in life. But it seems like right after a surgery is the right time to be doing this practice. And so that case really interested me because, it could be something we're going to study a little more closely in the future, whether or not there's this period after surgery that's really optimal for doing the perceptual training.
And that's actually one thing that's exciting. Your team has grown a whole lot since 4 years ago, and now you have optometrists, visual scientists, research, and so that'll be, that's going to be great to see. As we learn more about what the opportunities are and what the results are. Right now it's all so new. It's exciting, but it'll be even more exciting when we have more data behind it.
Yeah, and we're working with a number of universities right now. Each group has sort of a specific area they're looking at in detail. One of the sort of hard things about this is that every patient has a unique situation going on. And so it's really difficult to study, lazy eye when it's really a bunch of different things, each with their own causes and effects.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the newest update also includes one of the activities that's beneficial for sports vision, so peripheral vision, reaction time. And so I assume that you are working on more opportunities for treatment as time goes on. I'm sure you have a lot of stuff that is kind of in the pipeline that you're not ready to talk about, but is probably super exciting. So that's got to be really fun to be this far ahead of something that has so much potential.
Yeah, I think over the next couple of years, like you said, we've been growing and are hoping to grow a little more. And part of that is expanding research and development and sort of expanding the kinds of things we measure and treat with VR headsets. And so sports vision is part of that. We're doing a little work in low vision as well. And we actually just announced publicly that we're working on a visual field test that uses the headset.
Now, one of the things that's most exciting, I think, is that the virtual reality VR devices are becoming so common and widespread at home. Everything from kind of higher end Oculus Rift to like the Samsung Gear, VR. So the opportunity to be able to do what is extremely sophisticated visual treatment, at home, is something that I think's been a goal of yours for a long time. And And I know that people are interested because we get emails from all over the world. We actually had a family that they live in Brazil, but they came to Florida to go to Disney World for vacation, but then they took a day off of their Disney World vacation to come to my office to see if they were a candidate for Vivid Vision. And this young girl had 2 different eye muscle surgeries to align her eyes, and I thought she was an excellent candidate. So they just recently started doing Vivid Vision at home in Brazil, which is way more exciting, I think, with potential for benefit than they were able to do locally before. That's just one story, and I'm sure that there are, many, many stories like that people have access to, to this kind of therapy where they didn't before. So I think that's going to be wonderful for patients all over.
Yeah, that's our original mission was to have some kind of home treatment. And then we found out how complicated it is, found out doctors really, really do need to be involved and make that initial diagnosis and follow up on the treatment and sort of manage it and make sure things are going correctly. And so it took us a little longer than we expected to get out the home version and sort of make sure we were doing it correctly. But now that it's out, we've been hearing a lot of stories like that of doctors managing the treatment of patients who normally wouldn't have access to good care.
Yeah, I think it's extremely exciting, and I had talked to you kind of early on, and as soon as it was kind of out of the beta testing stage, we implemented it in the office, and we've been very very happy with it. And so I know that I will see you at some of the upcoming vision therapy meetings. COVD is a big meeting, and that's coming up soon. So that's exciting. Anything else that you'd like to share with patients before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I guess, one of the things that really helps companies like us is to hear from patients and just sort of hear, what people want, what people need. Those stories really help us figure out, what we should prioritize, what we should be working on. So it's always great to, get an email from somebody or something like that through our website, just hearing, what their problems are and what then we can try to figure out what we can do to help fix it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll definitely make sure that we include your contact info. And the website is called seevividly.com.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I really do appreciate you taking time to talk to me today, and I'm looking forward to editing this episode so we can get it up for people to listen to.
Yeah, very nice talking to you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, and to our listeners, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can email us at office@brighteyestampa.com. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Brought to you by Bright Eyes Family Vision Care and Bright Eyes Kids. Find previous episodes and more detailed information at brighteyestampa.com. Creative Commons copyright attribution, non-commercial use. The only purpose of this podcast is to educate and to inform. It is no substitute for professional care by a doctor experienced in the area you require. This podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. Please consult your physician for diagnosis and treatment.